Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order. If there's any one in the public has any questions, please email planning@ektwp.ca and we will address these questions during the question period. I could have a motion for and a seconder for adoption of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting agenda. Dan and Mark, all in favor? Thank you. And any disclosure of preliminary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, okay, thank you. I have a motion and a seconder for the adoption of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Were there any errors or omissions? No, seeing none, could I have a motion? And okay, Linda, Angie, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, we have before us the first application, appointment 6.1 is a severance for B-19-25 is a new lot. It's Chapman property. It's at 17th Street Road, concession 1, part lot 23, our plan 28 R8056, part 2 to 6, and geographic township of Kitley. The purpose of the application is to sever a 0.81 hectare lot with 64 meter of frontage on Street Road for rural residential purposes. The severed lands are vacant. The retained 0.81 hectare lot with 64 meter frontage on Street Road. The retained lands are developed with a house and attached garage. The official plan of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, the severed is rural lands, retained is rural lands. The township official plan, the severed is rural constraints, and the retained is rural constraints. The township zoning bylaw 13-21, the severed lands is RU, is rural RU, and the retained is RU. Michael, would you speak on the township official plan and the township zoning bylaw on this property, please?
Of course. Good evening, and thank you. So the PPS, the county's official plan, and the township's official plan all identify the lands as rural. Rural land designation in all three of those documents allow for residential uses. Just to clarify from the report, there are actually no water courses or significant woodlands on the property. And the property is also set far away enough from those constraints that they have no effect on the proposal. And then from staff's review of relevant policies in the PPS and county's official plan, it is our opinion that the proposal conforms with both of these documents. Regarding township policies, the lot creation limit set out by the official plan allows for 2 lots per land holding as existed on July 11th, 1988. There is a record of 1 severance on the land, making the subject property eligible for 1 more proposed lot, which we're discussing today. As mentioned, the lands are zoned rural. The proposed severance meets the minimum lot size, minimum frontage, and all other zoning requirements of the rural zone. Minimum distance separation calculations were completed for close by livestock facilities and were favorable for the proposal. The township's public works manager has confirmed there's no concerns with the proposed access onto Street Road, and our building services staff have confirmed there's no concerns regarding their septic review. Based on these comments, staff would like to provide the following recommended conditions for the community's consideration. I'd also like to note that there was an email sent around today, just updating one of those conditions from a public works perspective. Essentially, the condition read that new entrance permits were required for all new and existing accesses on the severed and retained lands. In addition to that, we're also requesting at the discretion of public works staff that a lot grading and drainage plan be submitted for new entrances, just to address concerns regarding drainage in some of the properties that we've seen recently. So in addition to that condition, staff were also recommending that cash in lieu of parkland contribution be paid to the township, that road widening along the frontage of Street Road take place for the severed and retained lands. As mentioned, that entrance permits be applied for, that the balance of taxes be paid to the municipality, and that all conditions are filled at the applicant's expense. And this concludes staff's comments.
Thank you very much, Michael. I don't see Mr. Chapman. Okay, thank you. Right. Is there any questions from the committee or clarifications? Yes, Dan.
The notes from Public Works, is that not a little late coming in? You know, I more or less was kind of taken aback by the fact that they want them to do a drainage plan and then apply for entrances. Is that pretty common?
So through the chair, because of changes in public works staff recently, there's been changes to these conditions over the last couple of months, and they've kind of been evolving to a place where kind of all staff are happy with them. What we've typically had for the last few meetings is that there's a requirement for entrance permits to be applied for existing and proposed entrances onto the that's a relatively standard condition now, which is basically just to ensure we have an inventory of entrances that exist. And before a building can be built on the civil lands, it's a requirement to have an entrance permit. So that's a relatively typical requirement that we're just moving up ahead in time, just to make sure there's no concerns. The addition of public works comments for this application and most likely applications moving forward is a request for a lock rating and drainage plan only at their discretion, meaning it won't be required for every single entrance, but when public works is familiar with property and knows there could be some concerns regarding lock grading and drainage, they want to just make it clear that that will be a request. In addition to that, to make it more upfront for upcoming applications, we've been referring even preliminary severance requests. So before we even receive an application from the county for a severance, we've been referring those to public works for them to identify basically from day one what the requirements are. So now that they're receiving those or those severance inquiries more often and early in the process, these things can be identified earlier in the process.
Because hasn't it always been that the county had the last say in a lot of these driveways and in drainage issues? And usually the applicant, when they go to make first contact with the township, they're kind of made aware. But you're saying because of staffing changes, you're trying to evolve it into something else?
We're trying to involve it to ensure that we don't run into issues later down the line. So we've had recent examples where there have been more concerns about block grading drainage, and we haven't addressed that early enough in the process and are asking it later down the line. And this is sort of our attempt to make sure it's clear as soon as we realize it could be an issue for them. And what you said before is correct. The county does have the final say on conditions and the information that gets, the decision that goes to the applicant. In this case, because these applications today are on township roads, we're the ones raising those concerns.
Yeah, not a county road.
My experience is, and I think our experience is, Dan, is that generally speaking, previously, it was that the municipal township roads was the general, I call it general statement, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, was that it was acceptable for an entrance out onto the road. And if it was at a county, they approved, it would get an approval from the county. And I would say over the last, almost say 8 months or 9 months, this committee has noticed a change in that. I think even at the last meeting, there was a clarification on a couple of things just to make sure we're on the same page. We get another new one again tonight or today, right? As you're pointing out, is something more, a little bit more detail. And I think, you know, speak here, and Michael can correct me. Listening to Michael, what he was saying, we're going to assume, forgetting about the new staff, I'm going to assume that what's going to happen is the next one or down the road, there's like this, we will have a report with the original, and that's what I think we would like as a committee, would like to see prior to receiving it in the afternoon of the meeting, right? And I think this will evolve as we go along the line.
Yeah, I would say you're right. It's definitely an iterative process. We're trying to make sure that we present as much information, hopefully all information up front when the agenda is published, but sometimes things just slip through the cracks. And when we see an opportunity to correct it, we would like to jump on that rather than wait until the next application comes.
And I think also what's happening is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this one too, is that almost say you're counting them, but you're noting where the driveway entrances are now, which is new compared to what it used to be. It used to be just a driveway and you do whatever, right? So that's changed too. So there's been a lot of changes on the entrances in the last, I'd say, 8 months as it evolves.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've had a couple issues where people are now, 10, 15 years after, that there's driveway issues, water being dammed and stuff. And we really want to have more control of the culverts and the driveways at the beginning. Because it's pretty easy to dump a load of gravel and have access to your property. And 5 years out of 10, it's really good.
Right.
But then it's the township's problem if there's water backed up on that last year and we got to do an emergency fix. So I think it's yeah, the report will come a little earlier.
And that will be, I sure it'll be, I guess it'll be noted, Michael and Sarah, so, yeah.
I think part of this is, like, I live on the Alex Road that was redone in the last couple of years because the overpass was redone. And they ended up having to replace all the culverts on the road. And on that, there was at least 3 properties I know of that had farm entrances that are now driveways and had no culverts. They do now because of the reconstruction on the road, but I can see where the township would want to know ahead of time, you know, because culverts aren't cheap, you know, and all of a sudden now you've got 3 more driveways you've got to add, you know, to that whole expense. I think that's kind of the method to the madness of getting an inventory of what's out there.
Anything else, Dan? Or-
No, not really.
I understand what you're completely.
No, there's nothing at the moment. I'm not sure what that costs the landholder for the study, the drainage study. That sounds expensive anytime you say study.
Yes, I disagree on that. I think we've all experienced studies and things that we think are straightforward, but it's not straightforward, and because of legislation or changes, it's in whether it's in planning or whatever, zoning, and it's a kind of cost, so I understand.
But what I gather is that Public Works thinks that's a low area. And so the surrounding properties could be a problem down the road on the severed lot, not the retained lot, right? Okay.
People see more of those. Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to move that we approve this, just to keep things moving.
I like to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to speak and have their views, because this is new. And make sure that we all understand what's going on.
That's why I wait.
So you've moved it, so if there's no more discussion, can we have a second, please? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Now, the next one we have is application 6.2, and it is severance report. It's 2 new lots, and I think we'll address both at the same time because they're very similar and beside each other. So it's the B-20-25 is the new lot. It's a Chapman property, and the other one is B-21-25 is a new lot. It's in the property of Kitley, South Elmslie town line. And it's concession 2, part lot 25, RP 28, R14 876, part 2, in the geographic township of Kitley. The first one, the B-20-25, is to sever a 1.1 hectare lot with 110 meter frontage on Kitley, South Elmslie town line for rural residential purposes. The severed lands are vacant. The next of the applications, B-21-25, is to sever 1.35 hectare lot with 90 meter frontage on Kitley, South Elmsley town line for rural residential purposes. The severed lots, land is vacant, and is to retain a 63-hectare lot with 425 meter frontage on Kitley, South Elmsley town line. Retained lands are vacant. The official plans of the United County, Leeds and Grenville, is that they are severed as rural lands, and the retained is rural lands and natural heritage. The township official plan, the severed is rural constraints are none, and retained is rural natural heritage, PSW constraints, significant woodlands, permanently wet areas, organic soils, and water courses. And the township zoning bylaw 1321, the severed land is RU, which is rural, and the retained land is RU, which is rural and environmental protection, provincially significant wetland. Michael, would you like to speak on the official planning and zoning?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could I bring a chair over to sit closer? I'm not hearing it.
Okay, yes, you can. Thank you very much.
So through the chair, the PPS identifies, excuse me, the lands as rural lands as mentioned. The county's official plan identifies the land as rural and natural heritage. To clarify, the severed lands are sufficiently away from all natural heritage features on the property. From staff's review of the relevant policy, staff is of the opinion that the proposal conforms with the PPS and the county's official plan. Regarding township policies, the lot creation limit set out by the official plan again allows 2 lots per land holding as of July 11th, 1988. This property was originally 2 land holdings, and since then there have been consolidations, lot additions, and 2 severances. So from our review, the property is still eligible for 2 more proposed lots, which are what we're discussing today. As mentioned, the lands are zoned rural. The proposed severances meet the minimum lot size, frontage, and other requirements of the RU zone. Minimum distance separation calculations were completed for close by livestock facilities, and again, were found favorable for the proposal. The township's public works manager has confirmed there's no concerns with proposed access onto the township road, and our building staff have also confirmed there's no concerns regarding their septic review. Based on these comments, staff would like to provide the following recommendations or recommend conditions for both of these proposed severances. Again, as previously mentioned on the other application, the condition from Public Works has been revised to include language indicating that a lot grading drainage plan may be required as per the discretion of Public Works staff. In addition to that condition, the conditions read that a cash in lieu of parkland contribution be paid to the township, that road widening in front along the frontage of the township road be take place with severed and retained lands. That entrance permits be applied for and issued for any existing and proposed resident entrances. Excuse me. That a balance of taxes be paid to the municipality, and that all conditions be fulfilled at the applicant's expense. This concludes staff's comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I bring it before the committee, Mr. Tennant has some questions on it, and I think what I'd like to do is have Mr. Tennant speak on it. And some question, and then we'll look before the committee.
And I have to say that I apologize, and I don't have good eyesight right now. I'm having another operation at Hotel Doom Hospital probably tomorrow. And so anyway, you have to give me patience to get through this. But one question I have is, can I just ask questions too? Is this land is vacant? Actually, it's had its farm use for years and years. My dad and brother have. It's just a few acres, but it was a small hayfield, is what it is. And yeah, they farmed as much as they could. It's not really tillable land, but farmers farm what they can. And so there has been farm crops taken off of it. And that's registered at the OMAPRA as farm use, like the forms filled out every year that goes to Wealth for, to their offices. Okay, that's one comment.
Okay, yeah, maybe what we'll just, we could ask a whole bunch, this, I think, fairly straightforward, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Vacant land, I think he's referring to, it's not the classification of the land, what they're saying is that there's no buildings on it.
Well, like the,
Not the fact that it's being plowed and farmed, it's got a MAFRA, and it's an FL designation with an FT tax class. What I'm talking about is built on, with barns or a home. Otherwise, I'm sure, correct me, Michael would say a barn or a house or sheds or something. Okay,
like, okay, I think to be, for farmers, they consider their work as active, and it's not easy, and it's work, and it's when they're tilling and working, it's not a vacant where it's just sitting doing nothing for years and years. The land is being used, and okay, I'll leave that with yourselves to.
I think that, Mr. Canada, it means that it's, not a building on the property, it's not, there's no building, that's what it means by vacant.
Yeah, but
We're not, it's not saying that we're not questioning the fact that it's not being farmed, not being worked on, not being plowed. It's just, again, I call terminology.
I was at a beef farmers meeting about 6 weeks ago, and the president of the Leeds County Beef Association, one of the things he mentioned, which he said that when there's farmland, that if if it's totally rocky ground and stuff like that, then that's not usable for farmland. But if they can use it and work it, that's what he considers is to be farm use, and that's through he's connected to the Federation of Agriculture too, but that's the way they look at it. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Okay, that's one of them. Oh yeah, and the statement that okay, where this land comes from, there was two farms actually combined. I don't know whether we have a map here. It was the part in there was two parts. One was on the north side of line town, I'm on the town line road, but the next line up, there was another 50 some acres up in there that's not as good. And then they combined the two properties. If that's what's that's what the ownership now is. So then does but the other, up on the other line, there was no road. And so that's why one of the reasons why that property was considered remnant land. It was unavailable for development, and like if this is still in the deed, who should correct the deed? Like it's that part of it is still remnant land. It's there's no road up there, and it's pretty rough land, and there's only one field in the whole place up there. But now they put the two together, and should they be combined for development purposes? Yeah, just leave it at that. So, okay, and I'm just trying to say that no, this land didn't exist for usage as development in 1988. that wasn't available. So all we've done is combine it was my dad who was like Spencer Blanchard, he had serious health problems and he died young. And my dad helped look after, she had, like, Velma had about 4 farms, right? And so he just kept them going by mostly pasture land. But if there were tillable land, he kept on working the fields. And, you know, that's the way Velma wanted it. And Velma lived to be 100 years old, right? She only died a year or two ago. Okay, I'll sit down.
Can I ask, what is your request? Like, what, can I ask?
Well, have another look at it. That's,
What is your request?
well, for the purposes of creating development land, can you just, because it was a separate farm as far as I know, but then my dad got the two combined to be joined together. So then now there's a road down the Town Line Road. But does the grandfather clause for development follow? Does it apply to most properties?
Well, whatever it is today, like,
Because
but are you supporting this request or asking us not to support it?
well, I think they're okay. I may be wrong on this, but I think 200 years ago when this area was being developed, they needed villages. They needed to get the land to farm. And so then they set up the system for having 2 lots. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that is because parents' families back then and later, they had a lot of children. So it was a way to have a couple of building lots for the family members. That's what that 2 people thing is, I think, or two severances. That's the way I would interpret it.
My understanding is what this gentleman wants to do,
Yes.
right, in the application. He wants the lots for his 2 sons to build on. He's homesteading.
Well,
That's exactly what he wants to do.
but it has been farmed for, that's like saying Velma and Spencer did not farm it for 100 years.
There's, Michael, yeah, there's an official plan and.
Yeah, I can speak to some of the concerns.
Yeah.
So my understanding, again, having spoken to Ross previously about this application, is that there's concerns about what seems like the overdevelopment of what previously was used only for farmland. And then again, going through the comments in my report, the land is designated rural, not agricultural. If the land is designated agricultural or zoned agricultural, there'd be different severance regulations that would apply and they would stop severance most likely. In this case, because it has a rural designation, under the county's agricultural area review, this property was not identified for a redesignation to agricultural. So there's no plan to have it designated as agriculture in the future. The lot does have capacity for 2 severances. There was severance activity in the past, but because this was 2 land holdings prior to 1988, the rules would apply as each of those holdings would have capability for 2 severances. There has been some severance activity, but as staff have reviewed, there is still capacity for these 2 lots. They also meet other, more informal regulations that we have. Is usually if there's farm uses or agricultural uses, we try to minimize property sizes as not to use up too much of agricultural potential land on those properties. So these are smaller lots, supported by official plan policy, supported by staff review, and we don't have any concerns.
Can I ask, do we have a copy of the application here today? Paul Chapman has written the land close to these lots as agriculture. It's a hayfield. It's a small hayfield is what it is. It's so like right across the laneway, it's agriculture. Are you saying, Michael, those have a different they can have different, concerns. And one that's just sitting there hasn't done anything in, like vacant land.
Yeah, well,
I-
sorry. if you
No,
want
no,
me to
it's,
answer.
yeah, I understand the question, I know what you're gonna probably have an answer. so-
Paul's writing on the copy I have of this he wrote in the word agriculture, right close to this, that's for sure. So he considers it agricultural land.
And again, as per our official plan and zoning, everything is considered rural zoning and rural designation, so which allows for agricultural uses. But it doesn't have the same limitations as agricultural designated land. So despite farm uses on the property, the use itself doesn't prohibit land division from happening. Is what the policies and schedules of the official plan indicate it to be. Understanding there are some lands to the north that aren't within the township, and I don't have the exact information on the zoning of those properties, but that would not have an effect on this application.
Were leads, like, am I in the understanding now that just about every property, rural property in Leeds County doesn't qualify as farmland? Like, even though the farmers that were here, you know, hopefully they did their best steward work on the properties. And,
I know, right, and Henry and Mark are involved right now in, who are not involved, but know a lot about the designation of the farmland. And speaking about what Michael was saying, is that the township, under their official plan and their zoning in that, they have not designated this area as being prime ag land and being used, even though we know as rural property owners that people use for farmland, whatever. The county has done the same thing, right? So there's lots of land that's out there that's being used as farm, as you said, and I know I'm familiar with your background. So when I say class 5 land and class 4 land, that's pasture land, and that being used, that's not prime class 1, 2, and 3 land, that's farm. So that's why, and that's why, as Michael said, and then Henry is that the agricultural designated land that you just asked about would have a different approach, an application than this one that's designated as rural. And
So, yeah, and I think, I would also fight for the preservation of prime ag land. It's a commodity that's disappearing. So, I value that discussion, as a producer, agricultural producer. But as a counselor as well, Elizabethtown-Kitley, our only growth in our tax base is on property value and houses.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to encourage some house building, because otherwise our tax bill is stagnant income. And to provide services for the residents, we encourage our residents from corner to corner, if it's in their interest to subdivide and take one lot for a house. And staff has found that it fits within the bylaws and of the program, then I have to support it.
Okay, I like he's not here, but he works in the OFA, and a fellow I've been speaking to is Duncan Getz, I think it's Goetz. He's in the policy section of the Federation of Agriculture. Of course, now when any kind of land is getting scarcer, that he's been involved in ones where they want to develop Niagara peach growing farms into just a bunch of mansions. And
That's a little different than this what's here.
oh, it's a lot different. But he said that the way they look at it is, if farmers are, like, I think most of the land near where I am is number 3 land. It's the topsoil's only like 6-8 inches deep, and it's fair number of stones, but number three, you can still farm it. And, that's what the way those guys look at it.
Yes, but the difference is, it's all in the wording and the zoning and the classification. So in this case, on this property here, and I don't want to repeat, and I'll say it one more time,
Sure.
is that the zoning on the official plan and the zoning bylaw for a township and even the counties is not designated as agricultural farm land. It is it is designated as rural residential land. So what you have is you have, like a piece of paper, you have the farmland over here.
Yeah.
And it follows official plan.
Yeah.
And you have this as a residential, it follows the official plan. They're both different when it comes to a settlement. And yes, you can farm the land, you can put cattle on, it, you can take hay off it.
Sure.
And you can apply a farmer, even if I own the land, I ask the farmer, he can apply through his OFA and to get the farm on it, but that doesn't mean that it's zoned agricultural. So that's the difference in that, so.
Would it be possible if I could find out what the Ministry of Agriculture, the way they classify land, would any of their classifications be of use to municipalities, or, it's like everybody's working in a different silo or something, right? And
I think, Michael, just to, we're talking about zoning again, and we're getting into Ministry of Agricultural. We have to go.
Yeah.
if
I could just,
We have to go by our official.
yes,
but okay, and what about the
it's not
fact that
zone prime.
Paul Chapman is right on the application that this land is agricultural?
It's not zoned agricultural.
No, it's not zoned.
So he's made the.
Perhaps that was an error or an oversight. We
Well,
can't
he
speak. to
told
that.
us block that off, but it's on the application, the copy that I saw.
Again, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, could be terminology, agricultural. But it's the zoning is the main criteria behind. Not,
Yeah.
Was there an amendment passed that changed, that allowed for this property to be developed?
To the chair, there's been nothing specific, no specific site-specific amendments for this property. It's just from, the discussion that we're having today is based off of the 2018 official plan that was adopted back in 2018. So all those policies are coming straight from that plan, from that structure.
Do the properties find out, if there has been amendment, the owners find out if there's been amendments to the zoning on their properties? Is it possible that there is some farm use properties that aren't available for development?
Yep, through the chair, there's, again, through the county's work with the agricultural area review, they provided the township with figures, which I passed out to council. I don't really have them here at the top of my head, of how much land is zoned agricultural, how much land is in an agricultural designation within the township, and how that's increasing through changes at the county level.
Well, I would hate to tell my dad and Spencer Blanchard that they were wasting their time on farming because it isn't considered good enough to farm.
Again,
That's
it's, I hate to use the word, but it's a township official plan. And going back to 218, when we updated the official plan, I think Linda and I were on it. There was meetings here, people came, there was maps on the wall. And speaking from my experience, though that public meeting, I spoke to the planner of the day, asked me to speak to a couple of farmers and explain a few things to them about what was happening and going over. So, yeah, we're talking zoning and we're talking use, two different things.
And then the land registry office does have this land registered as remnant land. Should that be corrected? Or- I don't know who put that there, it's just on the deed, that's all. Which doesn't match. the
Again, I don't wanna, my experience.
Yeah.
In this is that reading many deeds, I don't really have not seen too many things that said that there's remnant land.
document.
And now, I'm not saying that there isn't on this, but normally we don't see that.
Sure.
If something needs to be corrected on the deed, I just went through it, personal experience.
Yeah.
It's the owner that corrects it. It's the owner that corrects it.
Does
so.
the land registry office, you know, would they have to be satisfied that it is remnant land? Before they put that
I
in
can't speak
register?
I can't speak for them, and it's the registry office now, it's called on land.
Yeah.
And it's no site anymore, so. Okay, is there, I mean, I think we're repeating ourselves now.
Mhm.
So, I'm hoping we have answered all the questions, and if you have any other questions after, or tomorrow, or the next day, or whatever,
I would like you to, all of you, I hope all of you have a copy of this page. It's, you know, I've been chatting back and forth with people connected to sales and real estate and OFA. And well, the reason why they said that they can't come to these is because they can't afford all the lawyers to attend these meetings and, but I just don't think that this land is, it's just that we've had a system that allowed two new building lots per farm. So when the owner, the executor combined these two properties, he's still got, he's still just got allowance for two lots. And the two lots were Velma's house and my 16-acre property. Velma's house, my house and 16 acres and this other 80, 90. There is no survey on this land. That's the 3 severances that have been created. That was 5 years ago. I think now we're creating 5 severances. Go ahead.
Michael, on this with the combining together, I heard you say that it's one thing to look at one and then you combine the two together. Larger and.
It's specifically because the consolidation happened after the 1988 date. If the consolidation happened before, it would be considered that holding as per that date. But because of the timing of the applications, the consolidation and the merging and lot additions in the past and the severances in the past, there's still the capacity for these 2 severances.
Sorry, I don't understand. The 1988, there was 2 separate properties. And so what was the rule again? Sorry, I just.
Sure. So the regulation and our the policy in our official plan to do with consents is it states that as a lot holding existed as of July 11th, 1988.
Okay.
There's the capacity to have 2 severances on the property. Some extra stipulations that by other regulations too. And in this case, because there was 2 land holdings as of 1988, which after that date consolidated, that entire land gained the capacity to have 4 severances, 2 from each. As you mentioned, there were 2 severances that happened, and now there's 2 more that they're allowed to use.
These 2,
which results in 5 lots.
These 2 were just combined 2 years ago or something.
They were consolidated I don't know the
Well,
dates,
no,
but they were after 1988.
After, that's the key,
No,
that's the
it
key
was-
phrase,
it was-
after 1988.
Well, the executor, he combined, as far as I know, just a couple of years ago. Like, he was just trying to simplify his executor duties.
Again, I'm
No,
not, a
but
law-
that
I'm not a
should be-
lawyer, but if you have two contiguous pieces of property side by side in the same ownership, they're combined.
Well, except that there is a never built road between, they're not abutting each other, there's a road. There was an allowance for a road that was never built. I mean, sorry to bother you, it's
Okay, no problem, so,
I'm just trying to be fair to the land.
Yeah. no, I understand.
And the people I come from.
And I don't see even a road shown on here, an open road.
No,
on the map. Is there any other clarifications or questions? Mark, you have anything or?
No, I'm not getting into this.
Yeah, okay,
But could I ask permission that you will look at these questions to look at? You know, I just don't think we have enough time in a meeting like this to, these are, for farm people, these are important issues. And like right now, we have a,
But this is the wish of the current owner.
Yeah.
Is it not? This is the wish of the current owner.
but I think, does it actually say somewhere that in doing severances, it depends on the person should be a farmer too?
No, as staff, I believe staff has done all the work that I asked them to do, or
Well, I'm
the
not-
county does, and it fits the rules. So I really believe we're gonna keep going here.
But
I appreciate,
I think the way the thing reads is that the farmer is the guy to ask for the severance.
no, the owner of the property.
It's farm owner, I think it
Yeah.
says.
I mean, does it, I don't wanna ask.
Because I'm
them.
not a farmer, so I can't apply for these things. They
No.
told me 5 years ago, they told me my 16 acres doesn't qualify for any more building lots. Like it has a frontage of 325 feet. The county planning was going to allow it to be added to another 80 feet. And anyway, and the executor fellow, he told me on the phone, go ahead and get the form filled out. And it's Paul Chapman is the one that's just saying, no, everything. And he hasn't done anything to improve the land here.
So if I can play devil's advocate
Sure,
here
go ahead.
for a moment, is it my understanding that a few years ago you wanted to sever your land?
No, I didn't. But I think I should be treated the same way
I
as
don't think
Paul
you're
Chapman.
being, well, if you never made an attempt to do it, how do you know that you weren't permitted to do it?
Because they told me. They told me mine would never, that's what the planning people told me 5 years ago. And
But you never made a formal application. so
I
you
don't have a large property, so I built a park in it and made it a lot better. I cleaned up the land, cleaned up the drainage, and
So this owner is clearly just trying to,
he's a developer.
he's not, it's not, I'm a real estate broker. I know what a developer looks like. This is not a developer.
Are you
This is the-
Renaud? Are you Renaud?
No,
No, at that.
Well, you're getting off topic.
Okay,
so what I-
let's bring it back here.
No, I don't know your name. so-
Yeah, no, let's just bring it back
Sure.
and Michael, you wanted to say something?
Just to wrap up from staff's perspective, I received these comments today. I
Yeah.
will digitalize them and send them to the committee, so Mark as well has a version of them.
Yeah.
I also recommend that you send them to the county so that they have a copy of this. If you want, I can do that on your behalf as well, since it's
Well,
information for the county, just so that they're able to address your concerns as
Well,
well.
they told me so many different things.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question? Is this the final decision here about
No,
these? Okay.
no, Michael will,
They
what,
don't tell me this.
so what'll happen is, first of all, I mean, as Angie said, so we can get going here, is that, the person that applies for an application, there's no designation on the person that says they're a farmer, manufacturer, a real estate agent, a doctor. It's a person that owns the land. There's no designation of what the person is for, or is designated. They're asking for an application. Shannon's asking for an application in a rural farm. So we did all discuss that. I think a lot of this stuff here also, and I'm taking a look at the questions here, and I think through our conversation, we have spoken about a lot of this. And like the deed, like first question, the deed, that's up to the owner. It's up to the owner if something needs to be corrected. You talk, current owner bought this as farmland. To buy it as farmland, but its designation is rural, and that's the application that's coming through here. The town line road here is mostly older farmers and farmhouses, question number 4. That has no relevance to the
Well,
severance.
that's people live here.
That has no relevance to the severance and the application. The across the road is an active farmland, again, across the road can be farmland, but it's not part of the application. So,
Yes.
okay,
Sorry.
okay, I think we're gonna move on because
it is. There's a government department now that has the policy, you gave me that. I was the one who was supposed to be the applicant on this. You told me that, Michael. I have the copy, you gave the letters to me. And maybe I don't know what you were planning on that, but there's a questionnaire in there that says, that if there's cattle, near 1,500 meters, then what, I don't know what that does to an application for severance.
So
You
through the
go ahead.
chair, there's, issues that we were discussing for your property are separate to this. The information that I gave you was in discussion for a different proposal. That's not what we're seeing today. But again, if you want to have a conversation, we can chat anytime. Feel free to come to officer or give me a call. The information that I sent you before was just for a different type of proposal. And I don't think it's what we're talking about.
Well, sorry, you invited me here to attend at this meeting. I didn't know it was a council meeting until.
But this is
Committee.
it's a committee,
Part of council.
planning advisory committee meeting. And I won't speak for, but I will speak for Mike when you ask the question. So we'll make a decision and it will go to council.
Yeah,
Council will discuss it. And then it goes to the county and the county discusses. So that's the pattern and then how it works, right? So as an advisory committee, we hear all this, we try to draw things out, we try to draw a conclusion to help everybody out, whether it's council, ratepayer, whoever, right? So, okay, so I think what we'll do is.
Sorry, I got one more question. The planning people have told me that a committee that used to the land tribunal, they told me it doesn't exist anymore. That's why all these decisions have to be made at the township and county level. Is there no land tribunal system anymore? I don't know.
That's when you go, Michael, that's when you go to appeal.
So it's an appealing process.
It's an appealing process.
Yeah.
I went to one about 15 years ago and there was well, even for mine law, there was a lady there that was like chairman of the meeting. And what got handed in was they put me in as the agent. I was the owner of the house and the owner of the application.
Okay, all right. You know what, Mr. Tennant? We're getting off topic here and we're going, so I think we've answered most of your questions. If you have any more questions later on, I'll even stick around and Michael will be here, or you can talk to Michael. Will be official. So,
Is it possible, I'll just leave, but is it possible that you can give me a summary of what's changed here today? And
So far, nothing's changed.
so I can,
Can he notify when it goes before council?
I can provide you with a summary of the discussion from
Sure.
today, including probably some minutes from today's meeting, as well as what step in the process today's discussion was for, and then as well as the upcoming processes and dates associated with those.
It's, if we're getting rid of the land tribunal system, then where does the public have a chance to comment on changes in
Your local,
your neighbors?
I would suggest your local politician. Okay, so could I have a motion on this, Angie, and seconder Linda, all in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Michael will
Thank you,
give
Mr. Fenn.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for the questions, and Mike will address you a little bit.
It is.
So what we'll do now is we'll go on to number 7, which is the land division decisions, and there's no land division decisions today, here with us today. Our next planning advisory committee meeting is Thursday, May 15th at 4 o'clock. Is there any other business?
That's a good question. Where are we at with Rouse Corner?
There, we are,
Okay.
we're still in discussions with provincial staff to determine if there's any avenue moving forward through minister zoning order, or if we're looking to approach it in a different perspective. I'm still waiting for our information exactly where we are to. So if there is an update that we know we're going to have a public meeting, or if there's more discussion or some decisions made, we'll bring that to your attention, but there's still discussions happening.
I know they were hoping to start last September.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the CRCA update and that. It's very, very good. Again, it's one of those ones where we'd like to see it beforehand and after. Okay, thank you.
Am I allowed, or I would take it from this meeting that I'm excluded from any more discussion to counties or tribunals on this.
I would say you could talk to your counselors and your mayor, and it's gonna become in front of council. And they, staff could notify you of when the date comes onto the council's agenda, and you could try again.
Because the land tribunal that I went to 10 years ago.
Well, I think you just go to, come to the council meeting and almost make the same appeal you're doing now and see how the mayor deals with it.
Okay, and Eleanor Renault?
Yes.
She's a counselor. Right?
Yes, yes,
And you're mostly counselors here. right?
just the two of us, Dan and I.
She said, Russ, I wouldn't want this situation done to my own farm. She was saying, I don't want a bunch of subdivisions right outside.
But I won't speak for her,
No.
but I mean, as a businessman, and if I was allowed within the rules of the township, I would like to make my own decisions for me and my family.
You're okay with somebody else having a subdivision, like.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come to the council meeting.
Yeah, come to a council meeting. Michael, you can.
I'll show the.
When is the next council meeting?
Well, he'll tell you when the date is on the agenda.
She was saying the same thing I had, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
It'll most likely be at the, on.
Okay, any other business? Is there any questions, Sarah?
Next week.
No public questions, no.
Okay,
Okay.
can I have a motion, for adjournment, please? Linda, seconder, all in favor? Thank you. Hey, Mike, I gotta see you, Mark. Take care.
Thanks for an entertaining meeting.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.